Admiral Jessica Thompson's coffee mug froze halfway to her lips as she stared at the holographic projection of the Galactic Council's representative. The tall, crystalline being, who had introduced itself as High Counselor Zixtal of the Unified Systems, somehow managed to look both condescending and uncomfortable despite lacking any recognizable facial features. Its crystalline structure shifted through various shades of purple as it repeated its demand. As I stated, Admiral, the Galactic Council requires Earth's immediate and unconditional surrender. Your species' continued, unorthodox approach to technological advancement poses an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. Jessica set her mug down with deliberate care, ignoring the snickers from her bridge crew. Let me get this straight. You want humanity, the species that turned their own moon into a giant space cannon just because someone bet them they couldn't, to surrender because we're too unorthodox? Precisely. Zixtal's crystals brightened with what Jessica assumed was relief at her understanding. The Council has observed your species' development with growing concern. Your tendency to, as you say, wing it when faced with technological challenges. Hold up, Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez interrupted from his station, not even trying to hide his grin. Are you telling me that the reason you want us to surrender is that we don't follow your instruction manual? Instructions are provided for a reason. The alien's crystalline form now pulsed with agitated red undertones. Your species consistently ignores established scientific progression paths. You developed FTL travel before achieving planetary unity. You created artificial gravity through what you call spinning things really fast, rather than waiting for proper graviton manipulation technology. Well, yeah, Jessica shrugged. It worked, didn't it? Speaking of which, how's that graviton manipulation treating you? Still getting those random inversions in Sector 7 of your ships? The silence that followed was deafening. That is precisely the problem, Zixtal finally sputtered. You shouldn't even know about those issues. Your species routinely achieves results through what can only be described as barely controlled chaos. Barely controlled chaos? Lieutenant Commander Aisha Patel called out from her engineering station. Sir, I believe we've just been complimented. The bridge erupted in laughter, and Jessica had to bite her cheek to maintain some semblance of diplomatic decorum. High Counselor, while I appreciate the Council's concern, I'm afraid we'll have to decline your generous offer of surrender. You see, humanity has a bit of a thing about being told what we can't or shouldn't do. This is not a negotiation, Admiral. The crystalline being's color shifted to a deep, threatening crimson. The Council has already dispatched its enforcement fleet. They will arrive in your system within one standard rotation. Jessica's expression didn't change, but her eyes took on a dangerous glint. You know what's funny about that, Counselor? We humans have another saying. Fuck around and find out. I do believe you're about to experience the latter part of that equation. She gestured to her communications officer, who cut the transmission with perhaps a bit more flourish than strictly necessary. Well, Jessica addressed her crew, reaching for her coffee again. Looks like we've got some work to do. Rodriguez, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Patel, how's Project Paperclip coming along? Aisha's grin was positively wicked. You mean the one where we figured out how to temporarily transform matter into two-dimensional space, using nothing but modified printer technology and spite? It's ready for field testing, Admiral. Perfect. Jessica took a long sip of her coffee. You know, I almost feel bad for them. Almost. The next 24 hours were a flurry of activity across the Sol system. The Council's enforcement fleet, expecting to find a cowed civilization preparing for surrender, instead emerged from FTL to find, well, chaos. Organized chaos, but chaos nonetheless. The first sign that something was very, very wrong came when their long-range sensors detected what appeared to be a massive sheet of paper? No, that couldn't be right. The readings made no sense. It was as if someone had taken a slice of three-dimensional space and somehow pressed it flat. High Commander, one of the Council fleet's sensor operators reported, their tentacles twitching with confusion. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from Earth's moon. It appears they've painted it. Painted it? High Commander Vroleng's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Painted what? Sir, it appears to be a target, with the words aim here in what our translators identify as several thousand languages. Before Vroleng's could process this information, another officer spoke up. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the humans, audio only. Let's hear it. The bridge speakers crackled to life, and what could only be described as ancient human music began to play. The translators worked overtime before providing the lyrics. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. What in the 17 hells is this? Vralynx demanded. Sir! The sensor operator's tentacles were now fully erect with alarm. The giant paper-like construct is... it's moving. It's folding itself? Indeed, the massive two-dimensional construct was performing what the humans would later describe as the largest origami experiment in history. It folded and refolded itself in impossible ways, its edges somehow passing through each other in defiance of several laws of physics. Sir, new contact! Multiple new contacts! They're coming out of the folds! The enforcement fleet watched in horror as hundreds of Earth vessels literally unfolded themselves from what should have been impossible spaces, appearing as if by magic throughout their formation. And at the head of this impossible armada was a single ship, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Admiral Jessica Thompson of the Earth Defense Force. We've received your kind offer of surrender, and we've prepared our response. You might want to hold on to something. What followed would later be described in the Galactic Council's records as the incident we don't talk about. The details remain classified, but surviving records mention something about humans weaponizing recursive algorithms, using black holes as impromptu garbage disposals, and somehow managing to turn the enforcement fleet's own graviton manipulation technology into what one human officer described as a really fancy trampoline. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted exactly 17 minutes and 34 seconds. Not a single shot was fired by either side. When it was over, the enforcement fleet found itself neatly arranged in what humans would recognize as a giant smiley face formation, each ship somehow gift-wrapped in that same impossible paper-like material. Oh, and one more thing. Admiral Thompson's voice came through again, clearly enjoying herself. We took the liberty of fixing that graviton manipulation issue while we were in there. You're welcome. The emergency session of the Galactic Council that followed was heated. They did what? The Grand Arbiter's normally steady glow flickered erratically as they reviewed the reports. High Counselor Zixtal seemed to shrink in on themselves. They turned our entire enforcement fleet into an art installation, using technology that, by all known laws of physics, shouldn't exist. And then they improved it. Improved it? Yes. Our ships now operate at 143% of their previous efficiency. They left detailed documentation too, written in the form of what they call sticky notes, with crude drawings of something called a dick butt in the margins. The council chamber erupted into chaos as various representatives tried to process this information. It took several minutes for order to be restored. And what are their demands? The Grand Arbiter finally asked. That's the most disturbing part, Zixtal admitted. They only made one. That we, and I quote, lighten up and learn to have some fun. They've invited the entire council to something called a barbecue next standard rotation. They insisted we bring side dishes. The Grand Arbiter was silent for a long moment. And if we refuse? They said something about teaching us something called the electric slide instead. The council chamber went very, very quiet. I move that we accept the barbecue invitation. One of the younger council members spoke up. I've been researching human cultural databases, and it seems far preferable to the alternative. The motion passed unanimously. One standard rotation later, Admiral Jessica Thompson stood on the grounds of what had once been United Nations headquarters, now watching as representatives from over 300 alien species attempted to navigate the complex social dynamics of a terrestrial barbecue. You know, Lieutenant Rodriguez said, handing her a beer, I think we might have actually scared them straight. Scared them straight? Aisha snorted, watching as a group of methane-breathing aliens discovered the joy of water balloons, carefully filled with their preferred atmosphere, of course. Look at Zixtal over there. They're teaching the Hive Mind Collective how to do the Macarena. Jessica took a sip of her beer, unable to keep the smile off her face. You know what the best part is? They still have no idea how we actually did any of it. Wait, you mean the origami fleet maneuver actually worked? Rodriguez's eyes widened. I thought that was just a distraction while the real tech did its thing. Oh, that was all real. Aisha grinned. Turns out if you fold space just right, you can make it do pretty much anything. Who knew all those paper airplanes we made in school would end up saving humanity? But how? Jessica shrugged. Hell if I know. I just told the tech division to make it happen and got out of their way. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Give smart people an impossible problem and watch them work miracles out of spite. To human ingenuity. Rodriguez raised his beer. To spite, Aisha countered. To both, Jessica decided, clinking her bottle against theirs. And to teaching stuffy alien civilizations how to loosen up a little. In the background, the sounds of several hundred alien diplomats attempting to follow the instructions to the cha-cha slide created what could generously be called music. The Hive Mind Collective had taken to it with particular enthusiasm, their 1,000-member consciousness creating elaborate patterns as they moved in perfect sync. "You think they'll ever try to make us surrender again?" Rodriguez asked. Jessica watched as Zixtal, their crystalline form now sparkling with joy, attempted to teach a group of energy beings how to do the wave. "Somehow I doubt it, but if they do," she grinned. "Well, we've still got that moon cannon, don't we?" "And Project Paperclip 2 is coming along nicely," Aisha added. "Turns out you can do some really interesting things with bubble wrap and quantum entanglement." Humanity. Jessica raised her beer one final time. "Never telling us the right way to do things, because we'll always find a better wrong way." And somewhere in the background, 300 alien species learned that yes, they did indeed know how to boogie. "Admiral Thompson, we have a situation." Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice carried that particular tone that Jessica had come to recognize as "humans have done something again." She didn't bother looking up from her paperwork. "Define situation." "Remember how we invited the Galactic Council species to participate in our cultural exchange program? You mean the one where we're supposedly teaching them about human innovation and creativity, but it's really just an excuse to show off and make them question everything they thought they knew about physics." Now she did look up, raising an eyebrow. "What about it?" "Well," Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. "The Hive Mind Collective discovered TikTok." Jessica's coffee mug stopped halfway to her mouth for the second time in as many months. "They what?" "They discovered TikTok and YouTube and something called DIY life hacks." He paused. "They've gone viral. How does a 1,000-member consciousness even—" She stopped herself. "No, never mind, I don't want to know. What's the damage?" "That's just it, sir. They're improving things. Remember how they struggled with individual creativity because of their collective nature? Turns out all they needed was exposure to humanity's most chaotic content creators. They've started a channel called Hive Mind DIY, and it's, well..." He pulled up a holographic display. Jessica watched in mounting disbelief as the 1,000-member alien consciousness, each individual glowing with enthusiasm, demonstrated how to upgrade standard galactic technology using what appeared to be duct tape, WD-40, and principles that made even human engineers scratch their heads. Are they using a quantum processor as a toaster?" "Yes, sir. They claim it makes, and I quote, 'the most fire toast in the galaxy, no cap for far.'" Jessica pinched the bridge of her nose. "How many views?" "Their latest video on how to turn a standard-issue graviton manipulator into what they're calling a sick beats generator has over 12 billion views across known space. The Galactic Council's Department of Technological Standards has filed 17 formal complaints. Apparently their entire certification system is in shambles because species across the galaxy are starting to..." He checked his notes. "Speedrun tech advancement." "Speedrun?" Jessica couldn't help but laugh. "Please tell me someone's keeping score." "The Arctarians have set up a leaderboard. The Crystalline Confederation is currently ahead after they figured out how to achieve FTL by, and again I'm quoting here, vibing really hard with the universe." Before Jessica could respond, her communication panel lit up with an incoming transmission from High Counselor Zixtal. Their crystalline form was cycling through colors so rapidly it looked like a disco ball. "Admiral Thompson!" Zixtal's voice carried both excitement and panic. "You won't believe what we just discovered. Did you know that if you apply the principles of your human cat videos to quantum mechanics, you can—" "Let me guess," Jessica interrupted. "You can collapse quantum uncertainty by making it too embarrassed to maintain superposition?" "Better. We found out that quantum particles behave exactly like cats. They're both liquid and solid and don't obey normal physics. We've revolutionized our understanding of the universe through what your species calls memes." Jessica turned to Rodriguez. "Get me Admiral Patel on the line. I need to know if our reality is actually breaking, or if it just feels that way." 3 hours later, Jessica sat in an emergency conference with Earth's top scientists and military leaders. The holographic displays showed various scenes from across the galaxy, alien species abandoning centuries of careful technological progression in favor of what they were now calling the human method, solving problems through a combination of spite, creativity, and complete disregard for whether something should work in theory. "So let me get this straight," Jessica addressed the assembled group. We accidentally taught the galaxy that our apparently random and chaotic approach to science and technology is actually more efficient than their careful, methodical approach? Not exactly, Admiral Patel's hologram replied, her grin visible even through the slight static. We taught them that having fun while doing science produces better results. The Hive Mind Collective's latest paper on quantum mechanics includes reaction gifs, and is somehow both a groundbreaking scientific work and a top-tier shitpost. The memes, Jessica. One of the scientists spoke up, his eyes wild with excitement. The memes are accelerating technological progress across the galaxy. It turns out that when you combine thousands of years of alien scientific knowledge with humanity's ability to turn anything into a joke, you get, well. He gestured to another display, showing a group of traditionally serious Vulcanoid aliens doing something that appeared to violate several laws of physics while shouting, "Yeet!" I see. Jessica took a long sip of coffee. And how are the more traditional members of the Galactic Council taking this? That's the best part, Rodriguez chimed in. They tried to ban what they're calling human-style innovation, but had to give up when someone pointed out that technically, trying to ban something because it works too well is, itself, a very human approach to problem-solving. The irony caused 3 logic-based species to have the equivalent of a blue screen of death, Patel added cheerfully. They rebooted as Mimilords. Jessica sat back in her chair, taking it all in. So just to be clear, not only did we avoid surrendering to the Galactic Council, but we've essentially infected the entire galaxy with our particular brand of chaos? More like we showed them that progress doesn't have to be boring, Patel corrected. The Hive Mind Collective's latest invention, which they insist on calling a Poggers particle accelerator, is actually more efficient than anything we've developed. Turns out combining alien precision with human creativity produces some pretty amazing results. Speaking of results, Rodriguez interrupted, checking his tablet. You might want to see this. He pulled up a new hologram, showing what appeared to be the Galactic Council chambers. The normally austere room had been transformed. Council members from across the galaxy were engaged in what appeared to be a combination of serious diplomatic discussion and a dance battle. They've modernized their entire political system, Rodriguez explained. Important votes are now decided by what they're calling sick moves and solid facts. Somehow it's working better than the old system. Of course it is, Jessica laughed. It's harder to be stuffy and corrupt when you have to defend your policies while doing the running man. The really interesting part, Patel added, is that they're starting to understand us better. All those traits they thought were bugs in our system, our creativity, our willingness to try ridiculous solutions, our ability to laugh at ourselves. They're finally seeing them as features. And the best part? Rodriguez grinned. They're having fun. Real fun. Maybe for the first time in their histories. Turns out most species have a little humanity in them. They just needed permission to let it out. Jessica looked at the displays again, watching as various alien species across the galaxy embraced chaos, creativity, and joy in their own unique ways. The Hive Mind Collective was teaching quantum physics through interpretive dance. The Crystalline Confederation had somehow turned their entire home system into what they were calling a vibe check. Even the most serious species were learning to laugh. You know what? She said finally. I think we've done the galaxy a favor. They wanted us to surrender our humanity. Instead, we helped them find theirs. Should we be worried? One of the military leaders asked. About all this change we've caused? Jessica thought about it for a moment, then smiled. Nah, if anything, the galaxy's safer now. It's hard to start wars when you're too busy trying to figure out how to make a black hole dab. As if to prove her point, another transmission came through. The Galactic Council had just passed a resolution declaring memes a protected form of scientific communication. The vote had apparently been decided by a particularly intense breakdancing competition. Humanity, Jessica raised her coffee mug, teaching the galaxy to chill out, one viral video at a time. Fuck, yeah, the room responded in unison. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a 1,000-member hive mind was teaching the universe to do the Macarena, one quantum particle at a time. They want to what? Admiral Jessica Thompson stared at the holographic proposal floating above her desk. Establish a joint human Galactic Academy of Sciences, Lieutenant Rodriguez replied, trying and failing to keep a straight face. They're calling it Space Harvard. Jessica took a long sip of her coffee, her mug now proudly displaying the text, I survived a galactic surrender demand, and all I got was this lousy mug. A gift from the Hive Mind Collective. And they want us to teach? Not just teach. Aisha chimed in from her position by the window, where she'd been watching a group of crystalline Confederation engineers attempting to teach a black hole to play jazz. They want us to, and I quote, share the fundamental principles of human innovation methodology. Do they realize our methodology is basically hold my beer and watch this? Oh, it gets better, Rodriguez grinned. They've already drafted a curriculum. Look at these course titles. Jessica leaned forward to read the floating text. Advanced Problem Solving through Spite 101. Theoretical Mimeophysics. The Art of Yeet. Practical Applications in Spatial Mathematics. Why not? An Introduction to Human Engineering Philosophy. Quantum Vibiology. Making Physics. Cry Advanced Studies. They're serious about this, aren't they? Jessica asked, fighting back laughter. Deadly serious, Aisha confirmed. The Arcturians have already constructed the campus. They used something they're calling Minecraft physics. I'm a bit afraid to ask what that means. The applications are pouring in, Rodriguez added. We've got everyone from ancient energy beings to newly evolved silicon-based life forms wanting to learn the human way. The Hive Mind Collective has offered to teach a master class in viral marketing as a force of universal change. Jessica leaned back in her chair, considering the implications. You know what? Let's do it. But let's do it our way. 6 months later, the grand opening of the Interstellar Academy of Applied Human Chaos, nobody had liked the Space Harvard name, was everything the galaxy expected, and nothing it was prepared for. The opening ceremony began with what the humans called a flash mob, coordinated by the Hive Mind Collective, who had become surprisingly adept at TikTok choreography. 3,000 beings of various species performed a perfect rendition of Uptown Funk, while demonstrating principles of quantum mechanics through dance. Jessica stood at the podium, surveying the assembled crowd of eager students and slightly nervous Galactic Council observers. Welcome, she began, to what will probably be either the greatest breakthrough in intergalactic education or the most entertaining disaster in cosmic history. Possibly both. The crowd chittered, buzzed, and crystallized in appreciation. Now, before we begin our first semester, I feel I should warn you. What you're about to learn may contradict everything you think you know about proper scientific methodology. You will question your understanding of the universe. You will probably break several laws of physics, and you will definitely have fun doing it. In the front row, High Counselor Zixtail's crystalline form sparkled with excitement. They had become one of the most enthusiastic supporters of human-style innovation, after discovering that their species could achieve faster-than-light travel through what they termed crystal vibing. Your first assignment, Jessica continued, will be... She was interrupted by a sudden commotion at the back of the amphitheater. A group of Vulcanoid scientists, members of the Conservative Coalition for Proper Scientific Method, had burst in, waving formal protests. This is unacceptable, their leader announced. You cannot teach chaos as a methodology. It goes against all established principles of... They never finished their sentence, because at that moment, the Hive Mind Collective decided to demonstrate one of their recent innovations, a gravity-manipulating dance floor that responded to collective hype. The protesters found themselves involuntarily participating in what humans would recognize as an impromptu performance of Gangnam Style. And that, Jessica grinned, is your first lesson. Sometimes the best solution is the one nobody expects, especially if it's also entertaining. The protesters, now thoroughly caught up in the rhythm, didn't seem to mind anymore. The first semester of the academy proved to be even more interesting than anyone anticipated. The curriculum, while chaotic, produced results that even the most skeptical council members couldn't ignore. In Advanced Problem Solving through Spite, a group of traditionally peaceful energy beings developed a new form of faster-than-light travel after someone told them it was impossible. They named it the Watch This Drive, and it ran entirely on sass and determination. The theoretical mimeophysics class accidentally created a new form of matter they dubbed lolium, a substance that behaved according to cartoon physics but was surprisingly useful for engineering purposes. But it was in Why Not? An Introduction to Human Engineering Philosophy, that things really got interesting. Okay, Professor Miguel Rivera addressed his class. Today's challenge is simple. The laws of thermodynamics say you can't create energy from nothing. Your assignment is to ask, why not? And then prove the laws wrong. A tentacled student raised an appendage. But that's impossible. Impossible? Miguel grinned. Let me tell you about a little thing humans invented called spite. By the end of the week, 3 different teams had found loopholes in the laws of thermodynamics. 2 more had rewritten the laws entirely, and one particularly enthusiastic group of silicon-based lifeforms had somehow taught entropy to run backwards for the vine. The Galactic Council's Department of Physical Laws had to be temporarily shut down for maintenance after their reality verification engines overheated trying to process the papers. "Admiral," Rodriguez reported one morning, trying to suppress his laughter, "we may have a situation with the Advanced Studies Department." Jessica didn't even look up from her terminal. "Define situation." The quantum physics class was studying human internet culture, specifically something called cat memes. "Oh no. Oh yes. They've successfully proven that Schrödinger's cat is actually a TikTok influencer across multiple quantum realities. It's going viral. Literally. Across dimensions." Jessica finally looked up. "Please tell me they didn't. They made an OnlyFans account for it?" Yes, they did. Turns out quantum superposition makes for some very interesting content." Before Jessica could process this information, another alert came through. The Hive Mind Collective's latest experiment in their viral marketing as a force of universal change class had somehow turned the concept of gravity into a meme. Species across the galaxy were now treating it as more of a suggestion than a law. "You know what?" Jessica said after a moment of consideration. "I think we're actually achieving our goal here. Making the galaxy question everything they thought they knew about science?" "No," she smiled, "teaching them that progress doesn't have to be serious to be significant. Look at what they've accomplished in just 1 semester. They're not just learning our methods, they're improving them." She gestured to a display showing various classes in session. Energy beings learning interpretive dance as a form of quantum computation, crystalline entities teaching black holes to sing, and a particularly enthusiastic group of methane breathers who had figured out how to monetize parallel universes through social media influencing. "We're not just teaching them to think outside the box," Jessica continued. "We're teaching them that the box was imaginary in the first place." "Speaking of imaginary," Rodriguez interrupted, checking his tablet, "the topology class just proved that if you fold spacetime just right, you can make it into a hat." "A hat?" "Yes, sir. They're calling it fashion physics. The Crystalline Confederation is already planning their first interdimensional runway show." Jessica took a long sip of her coffee, which now existed in 3 quantum states simultaneously thanks to a grad student's experiment. "You know what the best part is? The galaxy's actually becoming more stable, not less. It's hard to have interspecies conflicts when everyone's too busy trying to teach black holes to do TikTok dances." "About that," Rodriguez said, "the Hive Mind Collective's latest viral video of a black hole doing the renegade just broke the universal record for cross-dimensional views. They're calling it the Big Bang Theory 2 Electric Boogaloo." Jessica couldn't help but laugh. "Humanity," she raised her quantum coffee and toast, "teaching the galaxy that the real universal constant is chaos." "Fuck yeah," the nearby quantum probability field responded in several thousand simultaneous dimensions. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Schrödinger's cat was indeed both dead and alive, and had just reached 1 million followers on space Instagram. The end.